Welcome to our deep dive into key cybersecurity threats and vulnerabilities. In today's digital world, malicious actors constantly seek ways to damage or gain unauthorized access to computer systems, networks, and sensitive data. At the same time, vulnerabilities, those hidden weaknesses in our systems, can be exploited by these threats. Understanding how threats and vulnerabilities interact is fundamental to protecting your digital assets. In this video, we'll explore the most common cyber threats, real-world examples, and the vulnerabilities that make attacks possible. Let's start by defining what we mean by threats and vulnerabilities, and why this knowledge is crucial for everyone, from individuals to large organizations. Cybersecurity threats are not static. They're constantly evolving and becoming more sophisticated. These threats range from financially motivated cybercriminals to state-sponsored espionage groups. Attackers exploit weaknesses in technology, processes, and even human behavior to achieve their goals. Some threats aim to steal money or data, while others seek to disrupt operations or cause reputational harm. Recognizing the diversity and adaptability of these threats is the first step in building a strong defense. In the next scenes, we'll break down the most common types of threats you need to know about. Malware, short for malicious software, is one of the most prevalent and damaging types of cyber threats. It's designed to disrupt, damage, or gain unauthorized access to computer systems. Malware can spread through infected email attachments, malicious websites, or compromised software. There are several types of malware, each with its own method of attack and impact. Understanding how malware operates is essential for recognizing and preventing infection. Let's look at some of the most common forms of malware, starting with viruses. Viruses are a classic form of malware. They attach themselves to legitimate programs or documents and spread to other computers when those files are executed. Viruses can modify or delete data and often slow down system performance. A famous real-world example is the Stuxnet virus, discovered in 2010, which targeted industrial control systems and caused physical damage to infrastructure. Imagine an employee downloading an infected document from what appears to be a legitimate internal email. Soon, the virus spreads across the network, encrypting shared files and causing widespread disruption. Worms are another type of malware, but unlike viruses, they don't need to attach to other programs to spread. Worms are self-replicating and move across networks by exploiting vulnerabilities. A notorious example is the WannaCry ransomware worm from 2017, which used a Windows vulnerability to rapidly encrypt data on computers worldwide. Worms can cause massive disruptions in a short period, making them a favorite tool for attackers looking to spread chaos or demand ransoms. Trojans, or Trojan horses, are malicious programs disguised as legitimate software. Users are tricked into installing them, and once inside, Trojans can create backdoors, steal data, or install other malware. Unlike viruses and worms, Trojans do not self-replicate. A real-world example is Impersonation, which started as a banking Trojan but evolved to deliver other types of malware. Trojans often spread through emails or links that appear to be invoices or shipping notifications, making them especially deceptive. Social engineering is a set of manipulative techniques that exploit human psychology to bypass security measures. Attackers use deception to trick individuals into revealing confidential information or performing actions that compromise security. Phishing is the most common form, but social engineering can take many shapes, including phone calls or in-person interactions. Understanding these tactics is crucial, as even the most secure systems can be undermined by a single human mistake. Phishing attacks use deceptive emails or messages to trick recipients into revealing sensitive information or clicking on malicious links. Attackers often impersonate trusted entities, such as banks or employers. For example, in 2020, Twitter employees were targeted with convincing fake login pages, leading to the compromise of high-profile accounts. A typical phishing email might claim your account is locked and ask you to verify your details on a fake website designed to steal your credentials. Spear phishing is a more targeted form of phishing, where attackers customize their messages for specific individuals or organizations. They use information about their targets to make the attack more convincing. Whaling is a subtype that targets high-profile individuals, like CEOs or executives, who have access to sensitive data. These attacks are often well-researched and can have devastating consequences if successful. Pretexting involves creating a fabricated scenario to trick someone into divulging information or performing an action. Attackers often pretend to be IT support or government officials to gain trust. For example, an attacker might call an employee, claiming to be from it, and ask for login credentials or request the installation of remote access software. These tactics rely on building a believable story and exploiting trust. Denial of service (DoS) and distributed denial of service (DDoS). Attacks aim to make a service or resource unavailable to its legitimate users. Attackers flood the target with traffic or requests, overwhelming its resources. In 2000, major websites like Yahoo and Amazon were rendered inaccessible for hours due to DDoS attacks. These attacks can disrupt business operations and cause significant financial losses. Distributed denial of service (DDoS). Attacks use multiple compromised systems, often called a botnet, to launch a coordinated attack on a single target. The distributed nature makes it difficult to block the attack by filtering traffic from one source. The Malware botnet in 2016 used unsecured IoT devices to launch massive DDoS attacks, impacting major internet services. DDoS attacks can cripple websites and online services, especially during critical business periods. Ransomware is a type of malware that encrypts a victim's files or locks their computer system, then demands a ransom payment for decryption or access restoration. The Colonial Pipeline attack in 2021 is a prime example, where ransomware shut down critical infrastructure and caused widespread fuel shortages. Ransomware can halt business operations and force organizations to make tough decisions about paying ransoms or restoring from backups. Vulnerabilities are weaknesses or flaws in a system, application, or process that can be exploited by threats. Identifying and mitigating vulnerabilities is a crucial aspect of cybersecurity. These weaknesses can exist in software, hardware, configurations, or even human behavior. Let's explore the main categories of vulnerabilities that attackers commonly exploit. Software vulnerabilities are flaws or bugs in code that attackers can exploit. These are often introduced during development and may go unnoticed until they're discovered by attackers. Missing security patches, improper error handling, and injection flaws are common examples. Attackers scan for systems with outdated software or known vulnerabilities, making regular updates and patching essential for defense. One of the most common software vulnerabilities is missing security patches. Software vendors regularly release patches to fix known vulnerabilities. Systems that don't apply these patches remain susceptible to attacks. The WannaCry ransomware attack exploited the EternalBlue vulnerability in unpatched Windows systems, causing global disruption. Keeping software up to date is a simple but powerful defense. Improper error handling occurs when software reveals too much information in error messages or fails to manage errors securely. This can expose sensitive data, such as system paths or database queries, to attackers. In some cases, it can even lead to system crashes that are further exploited. Developers must ensure that error messages are generic and do not leak internal details. Injection flaws, such as SQL injection or command injection, occur when attackers send malicious code as part of user input. The application is tricked into executing this code, potentially giving attackers access to databases or system commands. Many high-profile data breaches have resulted from injection flaws. For example, a major retailer suffered a breach in 2014 due to a SQL injection vulnerability in their payment system. Broken authentication and session management are vulnerabilities in how applications verify user identities and manage sessions. Weaknesses here can allow attackers to impersonate legitimate users or hijack sessions. For instance, if a website uses easily guessable session IDs or fails to invalidate tokens after logout, attackers can take over user accounts. Strong authentication and session controls are vital for security. Configuration vulnerabilities arise from misconfigured hardware, software, or network settings. These are not flaws in the code itself, but rather in how systems are set up. Common examples include default or weak passwords, open ports, and improper permissions. Attackers often scan for these weaknesses, as they can provide easy entry points into systems. Many devices and software come with default administrative passwords like admin or password. If these aren't changed, attackers can easily gain access. The Malware botnet grew by scanning for IoT devices with default or weak credentials, then installing malware. Always change default passwords and enforce strong password policies to reduce risk. Open network ports and unnecessary services can expose systems to the internet that should only be accessible internally. For example, a database server configured with an open port may be accessible from anywhere, making it a target for brute force attacks. Regularly review and close unnecessary ports to limit exposure. Incorrectly configured file or directory permissions can allow unauthorized users to read, write, or execute sensitive files. For example, configuration files with database credentials should have restricted access. If permissions are too broad, attackers who gain limited access might escalate their privileges and compromise the system. Humans are often considered the weakest link in cybersecurity. Lack of security awareness, susceptibility to social engineering, and simple mistakes can all lead to breaches. Employees who aren't trained in best practices are more likely to fall for phishing scams, use weak passwords, or accidentally expose sensitive information. Ongoing training and awareness are key to reducing human vulnerabilities. Insider threats come from employees, contractors, or former staff who have legitimate access to systems. They may intentionally or unintentionally misuse their access to cause harm, steal data, or introduce vulnerabilities. For example, a disgruntled employee might delete critical files before leaving the company. Monitoring and access controls help mitigate insider risks. Let's consider a practical scenario involving a small online retailer, GadgetZone Inc. An employee in the marketing department receives a convincing spear phishing email, appearing to be from their email marketing platform's support team. The email asks them to re-authenticate their account and includes the company logo and personal details. The employee clicks the link, which leads to a fake login page. Meanwhile, the attacker exploits an unpatched vulnerability in the employee's web browser to install a keylogger, capturing everything typed. In another scenario at GadgetZone Inc., the internal file server uses the default password, admin123, and is exposed to the internet due to a misconfigured firewall. An attacker scans for open ports, finds the server, and guesses the password. Once inside, they deploy ransomware, encrypting all shared documents and demanding a ransom. This scenario highlights the dangers of weak passwords and poor configuration. Matching threats to vulnerabilities is a key skill in cybersecurity. For example, if a company's website crashes after being overwhelmed by traffic from thousands of IP addresses, the threat is a DDoS attack, and the vulnerability is insufficient capacity or lack of DDoS protection. If an employee downloads a backdoor tool from an unofficial website, the threat is malware, and the vulnerability is lack of software vetting. Recognizing these patterns helps organizations respond effectively. In conducting a security review, look for vulnerabilities such as unpatched software, default passwords, and open ports. Each of these can be exploited by attackers to gain unauthorized access or cause damage. For example, unpatched software may have known exploits, default passwords are easily guessed, and open ports can expose sensitive services. Identifying and addressing these issues is essential for a secure environment. A typical phishing email trying to steal bank credentials often contains urgent language, requests for sensitive information, and links to fake websites. Look for suspicious sender addresses, generic greetings, and unexpected attachments. Hover over links to check their true destination. Being able to spot these red flags can prevent credential theft and financial loss. The NotPetya ransomware attack of 2017 is a powerful example of how combining multiple threats and exploiting critical vulnerabilities can cause widespread damage. NotPetya masqueraded as ransomware, but was actually a wiper, destroying data. It exploited software vulnerabilities like EternalBlue and configuration weaknesses such as unpatched systems and weak credentials. The attack spread rapidly, impacting critical infrastructure and causing billions in damages worldwide. NotPetya showed that even large organizations with significant resources can be severely impacted by unpatched systems and lack of defense in depth. The attack's rapid spread highlighted the importance of timely patching, strong network segmentation, and comprehensive security awareness. Understanding both threats and vulnerabilities is essential for building resilient defenses and protecting critical assets. In this lesson, we covered the fundamental concepts of cybersecurity threats and vulnerabilities. We explored malware, social engineering, denial of service attacks, ransomware, and the key weaknesses that attackers exploit. Understanding these concepts provides a solid foundation for discussing and managing cybersecurity risks. In our next lesson, we'll dive deeper into common attack vectors and how attackers combine threats to achieve their objectives. Stay tuned for more insights on protecting your digital world.